The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of 𝐂𝐥𝐿 and Ronnie.
Accident or injury, call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐝. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great guest today, Allan Havey, who has been on the show before. I remember Allan being, I'm in our studio now, but I remember him being in the living room for the actual show. Do I have that right?
You do have it right, and he made fun of the decor in your house.
Yes, he did. Too much Rams memorabilia. He didn't like my giraffes that I had on the wall there. I remember all that stuff. We did not provide snacks or a bottle of Lubriderm and a clean towel, so I know that he was upset about that. He's such a funny guy. What's going on in the world of Sue?
Just post triathlon.
Yeah, are you like, do you have like a buzz in your head? Do you have endorphins surging? What is it like?
I'm relieved and just healing. You know, I took a Epsom salt bath last night, and I was going to get a massage, but I'm still in like a little body pain, and I think it would be uncomfortable. So I'll wait till later in the week.
You need to try some cryo. Cryo is what you need.
Now, is this stuff that you know now because you're getting ripped and swollen?
I've known about cryo for a long time because athletes do it. Like professional athletes. LeBron has got like a cryo thing in his house. Have you ever tried cryo?
I have not.
This is where you basically walk into a standing freezer and it's like minus 200 degrees. And and you put on a song, like a 3-minute song, and then I always like dance around to it to try to keep warm while I'm in the freezer. And afterwards, it does 3 things. Changes your mood, makes you look more upbeat and sharp and crisp. Number 2, probably burns some calories, according to research, because your metabolism has to speed up to deal with the cold, and reduces inflammation, which is all your soreness you've got right now. So are you in? Cryo.
Okay, so where do I find a walk-in freezer?
It's a local butcher shop.
I have to go to a restaurant.
Exactly. No, they've got these things around. Just, Google cryo Long Beach. It will pop right up. And I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Okay.
Because I know, because I've been so sore. I went this weekend. What do you laugh? Every time we talk about this, you laugh at me.
I want to ask you, did you see something on your Instagram that was a challenge to you? From Brian from Try2? The guy who sponsored me?
No. Did he put a challenge on my Instagram?
He did.
What does it say? I didn't see it.
Well, he congratulated me and said, hopefully this isn't your last. You killed it. He said, Steve Mason, you're next.
Oh, no. I told you I will not run. I do not run, won't run. I won't say can't run, but I get too much metal in my foot to run. Now, I could do one of those ones that's like you do the swim and you do the bike and you do the run, like when you divide up when there's like a division of labor. Like I get that one. Like I could do the bike part. I don't want to do the swim because of the sharks, and I don't want to do the run because I don't run, but I do the bike part, and then you do the swim part, and Juan does the run part.
What is this, like best ball golf?
No, they do have races like this. Have you not heard of this?
No, I didn't know that you can actually do like a relay like that.
Yeah, it's like a tag team relay sort of situation, and that way I only have to do one of the 3. Tell your friend Brian, your training guy Brian, that's the way I'll do it. I'll do one of the 3. And only the bike.
A stationary bike?
A stationary bike is good. A stationary bike is perfect. All right, here we go. Our guest today is one of my favorite stand-up comics. He's been on the show before. He's also an accomplished actor with roles on shows like Mad Men and Billions and on and on. Allan Havey joins us. Allan, thanks a lot for coming on, man. How you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
So last time you were on the show, I believe we were in my house, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have any recollection of this?
Oh, yeah. No, I do. I'm walking around this house going, who decorated this?
Yeah, you did make fun of my decor. That's absolutely,
well, a little
absolutely
fun.
Right.
Kind of like a faux Mad Men kind of a thing.
It was faux Mad Men with some LA Rams stuff in the mix, because I'm a huge Rams fan.
Well, that's great. But I see behind you have a poster of Chinatown.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an adult.
Yeah. But signed by Robert Towne.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really, it's one of my prized pieces right there.
Yeah, well, he was a writer on Mad Men the last couple seasons.
Robert Towne was?
Robert Towne was.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
81, 82. And I remember going to a table read, and I'm like, what the hell is Robert Towne doing here? But he brought him, Matt Weiner brought him in as a consultant. So, everybody got a kick out of that.
So
Very
since
cool.
we last talked to you, they had this thing called the pandemic. I went back and I looked. It was like we talked in December of 2019. So the pandemic hit right after that. How did the pandemic turn your world upside down?
Well, I couldn't work. I couldn't, fortunately, my wife and practically my whole family were able to work out of the house. And it was a little frustrating. And then the fear kicked in, like, did I forget how to act? Did I forget how to do stand-up? But the way I stayed on top of myself, I never wore sweatpants unless I was working out.
Nice.
I put on pants every day. I shaved every day. I was not going to give into the pandemic beard or, I don't have to take care of myself. My wife still had to look at me.
Yes, exactly.
I was in charge of inventory and procurement.
Meaning
I ran errands.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, but that's a nice way of doing it. It made me sound more important. And then
It
my
does
wife
sound important.
made me her executive assistant, which is fantastic. So anytime she'd bitch at me to empty the garbage, I'd go, this is harassment in the workplace. This is not good.
Now, do you remember Tom and I coming over? We were like Robin Hood one day. We came to your house. There's a cupcake shop in our neighborhood that you and Susan love. So we called you up and said, is it okay if we come by? We were masked. We met you outside.
Yeah,
and
I remember. You bring me cupcakes, I'm going to remember you,
We said we had a surprise for you, and I think you both guessed that we were bringing cupcakes.
And then I gave you some pot pies.
You did, from the farmer's market.
Yeah, from a thing at the farmer's. And you looked at them like, what the hell is this? But they were good, right?
We had them that night.
Yeah. It was fun. But that's, do you think the pandemic should have shut everything down?
It's a very complex question.
That's the kind of guy I am. I ask the complex questions.
You went right for the probing question. I think probably, yes. Probably. I think we shut things down for maybe a little bit too long. I understand why things were shut down early, because nobody knew anything and we didn't know. But after a certain point in time, I thought we were keeping things shut down too long. What do you think?
No, at the beginning when there was a mystery. I mean, listen, the paranoia was not cool. Like, you felt if you didn't wipe down everything, you were going to die.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a fear tactic. But then after a while, you thought, okay. And I got double vaxxed, but right away, and I went back to shoot Billions in New York. So I had to prep for that. But I just felt it was, people were a little too paranoid and cautious, even though they all had masks on. So I think, I got sick. I was lucky. I got sick with the pandemic, with the COVID in January of last year. And all I had was the sniffles, and I couldn't taste my food for 2 or 3 days. So I got lucky. I know people have been hit by COVID and it's brutal. But I felt it was, yeah, like you said, a little too long. But I can't believe I haven't talked to you guys since then.
So you're back doing stand-up, obviously. I got some dates for you. Has the pandemic changed stand-up at all, or has it made it all the way back?
No, it hasn't changed stand-up at all. And I think people, especially at the beginning, were so excited to get out of the house, go and do something. And of course, people need to laugh always. So I think stand-up, I work exclusively at Hermosa here in SoCal, which is one of the best clubs, as Sue knows. And then I work in Vegas, which I'm going next week at the Comedy Cellar, and I go back to New York work. So I really, over the last 20 years, have slowly cut down on my road work. And this is my 70th year. I'm going to be 70 years old in September. So,
oh, wow.
I know. How old are you, Steve?
I am 59.
Why do I look younger than you?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think it's the hair. I think it's the hair that throws people off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't dye my hair, so I'm lucky.
You know what I wanted to ask you? I want to ask you, I've got a bunch of random stuff for you, but who were your comedy heroes when you were growing up? When you were dreaming of being a stand-up as a kid, who did you follow?
I didn't dream of being a stand-up as a kid. I wanted to be an actor. And even though my fate since kindergarten led me to stand-up, I really didn't want to be a stand-up until I got to New York, and I had a comedy partner that I met in college at Florida State. And so that's when it clicked in, like, damn, and my counselor in high school said, if you're going into show business, you're out of your mind. You can't do that. You're not going to make a living. And then in college, my counselor said, you ever try stand-up? You're a funny guy.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really reversed. But growing up was Jackie Gleason, Carson, my father, who was a very witty, funny guy, good storyteller. And then, Alan King, and then later on, Pryor, Carlin, Monty Python, even though not stand-up, and the National Lampoon magazine, which was so dark and so dirty and shocking. So the trifecta of Monty Python, the National Lampoon, and then Pryor and Carlin kind of together, I thought, and then, of course, Saturday Night Live came along, so it just, comedy seemed to be exploding. And I saw Steve Martin when I was at Florida State. He did a show there, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I laughed for an hour and 15 minutes straight. That had never happened. So, growing up, I really had a lot of influences, mostly from television, but also in the house.
So Vulture magazine did a great story. They did interviews with a group of comedians, and they asked them if they could steal one joke and get away with it from any comedian, what joke would it be? Do you have a joke that you were like, oh, God, I wish that I came up with that? Oh, God, that is just so me.
But and not so me, but, there's a bunch of Stephen Wright stuff I'd like to take, No, I really don't think about that. I mean, I do sit there, oh, damn, what a great joke. But I'm kind of happy for comedians. I mean, even the crappiest comedian has one good joke.
So true.
So I kind of, I'm happy for the comedian that came up with it. Maybe a little jealous, but certainly I don't want to steal it. It was mentioned in this article, by the way. What joke? Was there a joke?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of the jokes that were mentioned, but I was just thinking about when I first saw Jerry Seinfeld, I was just like almost every joke, but I remember the first joke that I heard of his that I thought was so hysterical is the one about Neil Armstrong having the toothbrush at the Smithsonian, and they had it on display encased in glass, and there was a little placard underneath that said, "On loan from Neil Armstrong." And his joke was like, "Neil, give him a toothbrush."
Well, when I was a young comic, I was at the Improv, and Silver took me and several people to see a laugh off. It was a contest, and Carol Siskin was a part of it, and Joe Bolster won. But the year before, Seinfeld had won. So he came on while the judges were making their decision. They did like a 15, 20-minute set. It was unbelievable. It blew me away. And Eddie Murphy, who had just broke as a star, came with Richie Tienken, and he was sitting between me and the stage. So I was watching Seinfeld and watching Eddie laugh his ass off at Seinfeld. So that was a great night for me in comedy. But since that night, I've been a Seinfeld fan ever since.
Well, that's what I marveled about the most about Jerry, because there was a really rough room in Queens called the Rainy Night House. Remember that club?
No.
Okay. It was so uncomic friendly because it was very narrow and both ways. So it was long, narrow this way, and then the wall was like 4 feet away. It was just not conducive for comedians. And not many people did great there. And Jerry was the most comfortable comedian I had ever seen in my life. Like, he was in his living room just talking to people. And you didn't see the strings. You didn't see the jokes, really. It was just so smooth and sharp and polished. It just blew me away.
Well, when I used to watch Jerry in those early days after that, he was so calm when he walked in. I thought, well, part of it was arrogance or but then I found out just a few years ago, he's been meditating since he was 18.
Wow.
And so if you go in to anything and you've been meditating for 4 or 5 years, you're going to be relaxed. You're going to be calm. And that's, I admire that. And opposite of that, Larry David would go on stage and not be relaxed and he was like, just so angst up. And during those early 80s, during the comedy boom, those two guys were my favorite comedians. And the fact that they, got their talents together and created that show, to me is just, I love it. I love the fact that these two guys couldn't be more different, could gel their sense of humor and make this incredible show. And I don't know if you saw The Last Curve.
Yes.
And when those guys started talking about the bearded lady, I could watch that for hours. Just those two guys once a week get on, bring up topics and talk about it. That exchange to me it's pure comedy gold. So I'm really happy that 40 plus years later, I'm still digging their comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's my favorite part of show business, by the way, being an audience member. Whether it's a play or a concert or a comedy club, I still enjoy, watching movies, that's where I get my biggest kick in this business.
So you do a lot of acting now, obviously. Billions. You're in the finale of Loot, which is coming up here, among other stuff. We talked to a guy named Nate Cordry, who's in a series called Sugar, and he's got this great sequence where the director has the room lit just for one scene, and he can do anything he wants, and he feels all this. And he told me, I said, this must be great for you as an actor. He said, oh, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. Do you ever have that feeling when you're on a set where it's like what they're asking you to do is scary and you're in the moment and it's kind of all on you?
No, not really. I mean, when I did my first Mad Men, actually my second one or third when I came back as the boss, it was so nervous. And then, I was able to calm myself down. But that was that whole day, they shot all my scenes in sequence. And I know why they did it. Because they go, well, listen, if it doesn't work out, we've only lost one day. So it was the fear of, and it was my favorite TV show. So the fact that I'm watching from home, coveting, I would love to be on the show, and all of a sudden you're there. It was pretty nerve-wracking. But once I got through the day, and the actors were terrific, everyone was good to me, the reality of being on the show was better than the fantasy of being on the show. But that was probably the most nervous I've been in a long time, certainly on a set. But, I've never been in that situation where just do what you want,
I know Matt Weiner's, sorry, Steve, is a huge fan of stand-ups. Did he see you in a club? How did you get the gig?
My manager, Naomi Odenkirk, and he were good friends. So I think she was just kind of putting that bug in his ear early. You know, you gotta take a look at my client, Allan Havey, and I guess he heard about me since he's a big stand-up fan, but I don't remember him ever being in a club. I had never met him before. But so I went in and I had to re-audition to come back and be the boss. So that was pretty nerve. If I had blown that audition, I would have just walked to a studio and just done a swan dive. I mean, you know, they go, you know, this guy's not working out. Let's get John Lithgow. Let's spend the money on John Lithgow. But no, he never brought up my stand-up, and none of the actors really knew me as a stand-up except for John Hamm and John Slattery. And then occasionally a crew member would come in or another actor, hey, I saw you on YouTube, you know, this and that. But and another thing that saved me too is I was the boss. So I didn't have to kowtow to any of the actors. I didn't go up and say, oh, this is my favorite show and I love you. None of that crap. I just said, you know, I'm in charge here. I don't have to talk to anybody. So that kind of helped me. And the fact that I couldn't tell anybody except my wife. They have an NDA, and I lied to everybody except my wife, which was, you know, unusual for a husband. So you had to contain it, which kind of made it more powerful in a way. People say, hey, are you on Mad Men again this year? I go, I haven't heard. And then I lost a friend. He goes, you didn't tell me. I go, yeah, I wasn't allowed to. And he got all upset. And I said, well, sorry, buddy. Yeah. I know.
You know,
friendship out the window.
The finale, you mentioned the finale of Curb. The finale of Mad Men is just, for me, it's just perfection. Yeah. I mean, as somebody who, I used to go to Esalen all the time, and so I get the vibe for where he went, and it's such a great finale. Is that one of the great finales for you?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like the Soprano finale. I like the Seinfeld finale. I don't, if you're going to give me a TV show to watch for 6 years and you have so many great episodes and at the end it's a little offbeat, I don't give a crap. You know, and the audience saying, oh, I'm going to cancel HBO. Really? So this guy gives you like 70 great episodes. It's you know, appointment television. It's like a kid that goes to the county fair. You take him to every exhibit, and on the way out, he wants a candy apple, and you say no, and then he bitches all the way home. You know, yeah. I didn't know the finale of Mad Men because I wasn't on that episode, and they shot that a year before it premiered, and nobody ratted the show out.
Wow.
And nobody found out a year in this age of everybody knows everything. That was really a coup. But that commercial at the end of Mad Men, that Coke commercial.
That was
remember
brilliant.
when that came out, Sue?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that was a commercial that when it originally aired, people would, hey, the commercial's on. You got to get in here and watch it because it was such a great ad and a beautiful song. And it's, you know, for Coca-Cola. And they were on a hilltop in Italy or something. But when he's meditating, you hear that bing, and then that commercial starts. It was a perfect finale.
Yeah, it really was.
John Hamm met his wife during that episode.
During that episode?
Yeah, he met this woman. They started dating. It turned out he married her. So it was a great episode for John Hamm.
Yeah, I guess.
And his wife.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I got a Seinfeld question here because he's making a movie now, or has a movie coming out. It's called Unfrosted. It's about the origin of the Pop-Tart, which is a clever concept. Do you know the history behind why he's doing it? No, fill me in.
He loves Pop-Tarts.
Oh.
And he has eaten Pop-Tarts throughout his life and talked about it on stage. That's his connection to Pop-Tarts.
Oh, got it. So he was saying about movies, he said, film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the social, cultural hierarchy that it did most of our lives. When a movie came out, it was good. We all went to see it. We all discussed it. We quoted lines and scenes we liked. Now we're walking through a fire hose of water just trying to see. Is he right about movies? Have they lost their place sort of in in culture in this country?
Oh, not for me personally, because I like movies, so I like going to theater, but I know what he means. Because, I mean, listen, television is really as an art form. With streaming, starting with The Sopranos, and then Breaking Bad, and then Mad Men, and then now it's everybody wants to know what's on television, which is basically a streaming service. So I get the fire hose thing, but I'm an old movie buff. I watch Turner Classic Movies a lot, and we don't talk about movies the way I understand that we used to. Everybody saw the movie, or a new Kubrick movie, or certainly a new Woody Allen movie would come out, and you would start to talk to people. Oh, don't tell me I haven't seen it, But I read that GQ article that you're quoting right now. And here's what fascinated me about that article, because I've been on friendly terms with Jerry for 40 years, but I don't know the guy. We haven't had too many soulful talks. But what he said, my family and friends realize that when I go somewhere, I rarely have a good time. That cracks me up. It's really puzzling, I can see, so I guess if he went to the 7th game of the World Series and the Mets won, he would have a good time.
Yes, absolutely.
Or I would imagine if his children are doing well, he enjoys that. But the fact that Jerry, who brings so much humor through his stand-up and his TV show, and Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, that he rarely has a good time, is very interesting to me.
Well, I think that's the impression a lot of people have of comedians, is that they're miserable people.
Oh, I don't think he's miserable.
Well, not miserable, but to say that he's not having a good time. I think, there are people that I've known throughout my life, and even other comedians that would say to me, "You're so well adjusted for a comedian." I'm like, what does that mean? I think a lot of people's impressions of comedians is that maybe they don't have a good time.
Well, yeah, that's the party line. You must have had a brutal, miserable childhood.
Mm-hmm.
This is pain. Comedians are damaged psychologically. You tell me one occupation where everybody is like sane and together. There's not a lawyer, not a doctor, toll booth clerk. Look at post offices. Remember for years they were being shot up.
Yeah.
Life is difficult. Life is hard, but my philosophy is you get moments of happiness. That's it. That's enough. Enjoy that, those little pockets of contentment, and move on with your life.
So we were talking about movies there and movies that people talk about. Yesterday was National Superhero Day. Now, are you a superhero guy? Is that your jam? No, not at all.
No, it's and what kills me is, like, certainly at Hermosa, where you have 10 comic nights and we're all sitting around, and these guys are talking about superhero movies, and one's a Marvel guy, one's a DC guy, and then they talk about wrestling like it's a real sport. I'm like, stop, enough. I leave the room, and I'm not talking about kids. These are grown men and women, just talking about, the intricacies of this. I didn't feel that. I always just stop, and none of them have seen, The Sweet Smell of Success. None of them have seen Chinatown. The Godfather. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I get it that it makes money and people are into it.
Yeah.
I like Star Wars, for the first 3 movies. That was fun. But all these spin-offs lately, I could give a crap.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about earlier, Steve, about movies, have they lost that excitement or that charm? And, when we were growing up, I mean, I remember like being so excited when a movie was going to open. I mean, I stood online to see, oh God, like blanking on the name because I'm old. Ellen Burstyn. Oh, it was
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
Yeah.
I remember standing online in the freezing cold, wrapped around like 4 blocks to see that movie. And now, I mean, you don't do that. I watch movies that come out on streaming service. So I'll pause a movie, to go to the bathroom, to make something to eat. It's a different viewing than than growing up. It was a different vibe.
Yeah, because that's the only place you could see the movie. And you knew that the movie was going to be gone after several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And rarely did it come back for a second run. I remember like 83, 84, I had a roommate in New York, young, struggling stand-up, and my roommate had a VHS tape of On the Waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember back in college, if it was on TV, you had to be there to watch it. So I picked up the VHS tape and I moved it on the coffee table, just moved, and I go, that's a sin. The fact that I can pick up On the Waterfront and just kind of handle it. It's not coming out of some magic hole in the back of the theater. That's when it kind of ended for me in a way, like, oh, I'm going to, I keep movies sacred because I try to go to the theater. But, like Sue said, you can pause the movie. Now, when I watch a movie at home for the first time, I make sure I pee. I make sure the room is quiet. I've already eaten. I call it good movie watching hygiene. Last night we watched Barbie.
Is that the first time you've seen it?
First time I've seen it. And it was fun. It was visually, it had some nice moments. I wasn't crazy about it, but I thought they did a great job. And I can't believe Mattel signed off on that. Showing the goofy board members and stuff. But it was fun. But, at one point I had to pee, or the cat was acting up. We paused it, then we went back to it. But it's not as special when you watch it at home. It just isn't.
What's the last great movie you saw?
A Zone of Interest.
Oh,
just came out this
such
year.
A chilling movie.
It is a chilling movie, and it's important to see it in the theater for nothing else than the sound.
Yeah.
Sound of that film. When there's these horrors, just happening behind a wall. And I like the movie because they didn't spoon feed you.
It did.
And this is a spoiler, but when the mother visits and then she's gone, she can't sleep because of the sound. And it doesn't dominate the film. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of close-ups. There's like one close-up in that film on a character, and that's it. So you're kind of watching it at an arm's length. I thought it was a brilliant film.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And so this year, I didn't see Anatomy of a Fall yet, so I have.
Oh, Anatomy of a Fall is fantastic.
It's really great. It's really great. All right, so now we're talking about some foreign films. I want to ask you a stand-up question, because I know that you perform out of the country, and you have, quite often. I know you were in Ireland some years ago.
I think in Israel, right?
Yeah, I've been to Israel, Ireland, all over the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Berlin a few times.
So the times that I've done stand-up outside the country were USO shows. So I predominantly was performing for American service people.
Right.
What were you surprised, if you were, of what people got or didn't get?
I was surprised they got just about everything.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I was at the Comedy Cellar years ago, and Chris Rock had just gotten back from Australia. And he said, they get it all. They get everything. Then there might be a few words that you should or shouldn't use. Like in the UK, if you say Asian, they'll think of somebody from India. Or, a couple different words. Or Australia, you don't say fanny because that's a metaphor for vagina. But other than that, I was shocked at how easy it was and how accessible it was, because they've had the internet now. Everybody's had it for 25 years. So, but I love going over. It started in 2016. I went over. Jimmy Carr invited me over to go see Wimbledon. So I went to Wimbledon. Then I I went to the Comedy Store and kind of worked my way into a show. And then I started getting booked over there, met some bookers, and I did Edinburgh in 2018, which was okay, but I'll never go back.
Why?
Because it's a mess. There's shows everywhere, flyers everywhere, just constant sensory overload in that town. Lovely people, really nice people, but I just don't want to go back and do that again. And plus, I'm older now. I'm starting to wind down on stand-up. So I doubt if I'll be doing it the next 2 or 3 years. It's a kind of, I feel the vulnerability now more than I ever have, just being up in front of people. It's weird.
Why do you think?
What is that?
I think it's just from doing it for a long time. I mean, in my early 40s, I had stage fright for a couple of years. I mean, it didn't stop me, but, that comes and goes. I heard 𝐒𝐿ivier, if I can compare myself to a great actor.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, we're here on a podcast. Nobody cares. But he went through a period of stage fright in his early 40s as well. So I think it's what all performers go through. You feel comfortable, feel good, and then it dawns on you, oh, I'm going into a room and I'm going to make all these strangers laugh. Where do I get off thinking I can do that, even though I've done it, And also, I don't want to go out weak. I don't want to go out there and kind of, you told that joke where you walk into a club and go, you know what, you smell like pee.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. You don't want to be Willie Mays on the Mets.
I was just going to say the same thing. You don't want to be Willie Mays at the very end.
Or Don Rickles in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Calling somebody a hockey puck. I know some people that saw Don Rickles on his final days in a wheelchair. They said it was pathetic.
Yeah.
Well, I saw Sinatra towards the end, and he was, reading. He had like there was a crawl on the stage that he could read. He was reading the lyrics, and he was disoriented. He was drinking like crazy, and actually Rickles opened for him, and it was so bizarre in the climate that we were in, even back then, for Rickles to be doing the kind of jokes he was doing because it was so politically incorrect. And it, I laughed my head off with him, years ago, but it was really, really sad.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Nobody wants to quit this business.
Yeah. Right.
Very few people. I think Don Adams got out, I talked to him after he retired and he was really fine, but it's like the great way to go out is at the peak of your powers. That's what you want to leave people. You don't, like you said, you don't want to see Sinatra. I saw him at Carnegie Hall in 1980. He was perfect. Then I saw him in like 91, 92 at Radio City. He was okay. And Shirley MacLaine opened for him and she went on for an hour and a half. I don't want to see you for an hour and a half. Springsteen, I'll see for an hour and a half, but I don't want to see Shirley MacLaine singing old songs and kind of moving okay,
Yeah.
But no, I go to the farmer's market. There's a lot of writers, performers there, like Ronnie Shell from Gomer Pyle. These guys don't want to quit because once they quit, what are they going to do? It's their identity. So
well, I remember I did the Bob Hope's Young Comedians special. He was close to 100 at that point, and during breaks in shooting, he would be in the corner, like didn't know, he was so disoriented, didn't know anything. But as soon as the camera went on him, he was like Mr. Show Business. And I was talking to his daughter about it, and she said he doesn't want to stop because this kind of gives him some vigor,
Yeah.
But yeah, 100 years old. Come on.
Yeah. Listen, I can play the ukulele. I'll hit a tennis ball. I'll go ride my bike. There's other things you can do, but nothing. And here's nothing that can replace stand-up. There is nothing that I can think of that, okay, this will fill that thing. And once I accepted that, I go, okay, nothing replaces stand-up. You're going to have to let it go someday. And you're going to have to accept that.
You have to learn how to paint. That's what everybody's doing now. I cannot believe, I'm joking, but so many comedians are posting their painting, and some people are actually pretty good. Like Carol Siskin is actually a very good artist. But yeah, so many comedians are all of a sudden artists.
Well, good. Listen, have you ever seen Jim Carrey's artwork?
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Bobby Slayton.
Kevin Nealon.
Bobby Slayton takes acoustic guitars and gives it a theme and decorates the guitars, and there's a theme. They're unbelievable. I was just at his house a couple of weeks ago. I had no idea he did this, and it's a labor of love. It has to take, hours and hours to put these guitars together, and they're beautiful. And I never knew that side of him. So, but, my father would go, why don't you write a book? Oh, yeah, well, let me do something else that's hard. Why don't I play the violin? I can handle the ukulele, but there's nothing that's going to replace stand-up. I'll act until, my mind's together. That's fun.
Yeah.
But acting, compared to stand-up, acting is a piece of cake unless you got to do a very emotional scene. You learn your lines, you break them, you have plenty of time to learn them and break down what you want to do and make your choices. And then when you get on the set, they give you a soda and they point to a place, stand there, say this, okay, now adjust it. You got all these people looking out for you. Stand-up, you got nobody looking out for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, I got one last thing for you. This is on your Wikipedia page. In a Vanity Fair interview in April 2016, Allan Havey discussed his longstanding fear of tadpoles and Battenberg cake. Is that?
That's bullshit.
It is bullshit?
Yeah, somebody put that in there. Somebody hacked my Wikipedia page. I have no fear of tadpoles or whatever cake that is. I get that asked at lies. It's somebody went in and hacked my Wikipedia page because it's easy to do and put that in there.
What odd things to say.
What an odd thing.
And the only reason I haven't taken it off is like one day I'll find out the son of a bitch that did that, But no. And as a kid, I loved tadpoles. They were kind of fun to look at. I grew up in Miami, so
couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly. I love tadpoles.
Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
That's the best you got, Steve? That's what.
I thought it was great. I'm like, well, who is this guy? Doesn't like tadpoles, and what the hell is a Battenberg cake?
Don't know. Yeah. And I've been to Germany. I have no idea.
Yeah. Sue, do you got anything else? Go ahead and finish with the big story, the big question. You've been saving it.
What's the big question?
Yeah, you've been saving it. What is it?
You guys are not prepared for me. At least you looked at my Wikipedia page. I've known Sue for 40 years. What the fuck is going on?
So, well, here's a question. What are you actually going to replace stand-up with? You said
nothing.
People are painting people.
What are you going to do? You going to go fishing?
I don't know. What I'm going to do is get a YouTube channel and just talk about how I got into stand-up and what led to it. And then I'm going to look at some of my old sets and break them down just for people who are interested in the mechanics of stand-up.
I think that is brilliant.
Is there any original joke that you did that do you polish that off? Do you ever use jokes that you have used in the very beginning of doing stand-up that are still part of the rotation ever?
There's a hunk I did like 35 years ago, that a whole bit that I do that I brought back out after the pandemic, and it only works in New York, but it's a nice hunk, and comedians come up, wow, I love that new bit you're doing. I did it in 1985.
Wow.
1986.
Why does it only work in New York?
Because it's about moving from New York to the suburbs. So It's very specific geographically. I can tell you the first joke I did on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the only one in show business. This is my opening joke when I first did stand-up in 1979 in Miami. I said, I have an uncle who's writing a book about Jackie Robinson in the early days. The name of the book is Negroes in Brooklyn. And there was a very famous book and movie, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. So it's just a play on words. So I got to laugh on that. And then I just talking about my first hunk of comedy was in Miami. Haitian people live here and they like to eat dog. So the police busted a dinner party the other night. They confiscated a couple of beagles on cream cheese and little chihuahuas on Triscuits, and then a dozen Great Danish. Which is not bad for your first hunk.
That totally works.
Yeah, still works today. So
did you ever hear that story? And I don't know if it's urban legend, but some comedian was performing somewhere in the South, and he said something about something Jewish or something, and he said, "Have you ever eaten a bagel?" And some guy yelled out, "It's a dog, ain't it?" Did you
No, I've
ever
never
hear
heard that. But that doesn't surprise me. I'm sure it happened.
Well, it sounds like something that we would have to have dealt with sometime on stage.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, I thought bagels were like, they called them Jewish donuts. So when I had my first bagel, I said, this is nothing like a donut. But, bagels now have made their way everywhere. So it's amazing how, and grits have made their way to New York and Los Angeles. Grits, now everybody knows what grits are.
Yeah. We had that thing when I was living in New York. We had scrapple. Do you know what scrapple is?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's terrible, right? It's like cornmeal and what's left of your, pork and stuff. And it was a big deal. Everybody, scrapple has arrived in New York. You got to go get the scrapple.
I was in Pennsylvania. I was in Philadelphia, and I finally broke down. I go, I've heard of scrapple for years. And I had it. It was garbage.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I know people that have uncles in Pennsylvania. They eat scrapple like 5 times a week and smoke non-filter cigarettes, and they're still with us. I don't know how.
Sue, you never had scrapple?
No, I never even heard of it.
Oh, yeah. It's a thing. I'm from Central Pennsylvania. I was born in Central Pennsylvania, Altoona, Pennsylvania. So everybody eats scrapple. It's the big breakfast foods, breakfast staple.
It's like poutine from Canada.
It is. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, the Canadians fucked up French fries. I mean, I had poutine, was there from Montreal. It was garbage. I don't know how these people are still alive. I guess it was created for hangovers and stuff, but it's the worst.
Do you want to promote your new Allan Havey YouTube channel on your way out the door?
I'm still forming it, so no.
All right, good. Well, we'll hold on that.
But
we will let people know that Allan's going to be at the Comedy Cellar in Vegas, May the 6th through May the 12th. Then at the Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley, Tuesday, June the 19th, and appearing on the season finale of Loot as well. Hey, Allan, it's great seeing you. Thanks a lot for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Congratulations on your adult apartment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I'm sorry about the passing of Roman Gabriel. I'm sure that was a tough day for you.
It was a sad day. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Creamy, but a sad day nonetheless. Thanks, okay. Allan.
Thank you. Thanks, Sue.
And there you have it. Allan Havey joining us, who is always funny. The weirdest thing is, honestly, his Wikipedia page. Fear of tadpoles and Battenberg cake. Now, somebody clever put that there. He's leaving it there. I walked right into it. Stuff in Wikipedia pages is often not true, and he's right. They're easy to hack.
Yeah, we've talked to some guests, and we've said things to them, and they're like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. Do you have a Wikipedia page?
I do not. I don't think so.
You don't?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna check right now and see if you have a Wikipedia page. I do have one. I don't know who does.
Well, I would think you would have one.
Yeah, I do have one. 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐝 Wikipedia. Nope, no Wikipedia page. Oh wait, no, not you. Yeah, no, not you. Sorry.
Oh, great.
Another 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐝, a different 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐝.
No, you're not important enough.
No, you are plenty important. Plenty important. You've just finished a triathlon. You're friends with Allan Havey. What else do you need? What else do you need? There you have it. There is today's Culture Pop Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you next time.